Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another very interesting combination to try out. It's a shell that one of you guys sent in, and it's going to be a pretty budget oriented combination as well, so I'm definitely curious to see how it can do, since these shells weren't entirely terrible the first time we tried them. But as for the loads we're going to be running today, I brought out some more of the Rio Turkey Magnum 50 shells. Big thank you to Adam for sending some of these over. He sent a bunch of stuff. We're still working through them all, but these are definitely some pretty interesting budget oriented turkey shells. It's kind of hard to see here on the front sticker, but they're a 12 gauge 3-inch 1 3/4 ounce payload of lead 5s, moving about 1260 feet per second. And like I mentioned, these are a budget oriented shell. I believe you can find these anywhere from about $5.99 to $8.99, so call it, I don't know, $7 or so a box on average. For a turkey load that's under $1 a shell, that's definitely down into the cheap world for sure. But here's what one of those shells looks like. You can't really see much about it, but it's nothing fancy going on inside. I believe the pellets are potentially nickel plated, but that's about it. They do have a basic wad, but they're not buffered or anything like that. So we'll see how they do through today's also budget oriented choke combo. So for the setup we're going to run them through, I brought out the Remington 1187. This one's got a 28-inch barrel on it, but for the choke, we've got a Primos Tight Wad in here. This is a 660 constriction, so a good bit tighter than the choke we tried it in previously through my Mossberg 835, but 660 seems to do pretty well for a lot of more budget-oriented lead 5s, and this Tight Wad is a $20 choke, and it has also shown some very nice results with other very cheap shells. So I figured we'll run the two of them together. If you were on a budget and went to your local store, there's a good chance you could find both those shells and this choke. So we'll see what the two of them can do when you put them together. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the turkey target at 40 yards and the chrono so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target. We'll take our shot and we'll see what this budget combo of shell and choke can actually give us. I don't think it's going to be anything too over the top impressive like a longbeard lead shell would be, but you never know until you try it. So let's take our shot and see what we're able to get. Alright, that shell gave us 1388 through the chrono. Lost claim is only 1260, but I believe we were mid 1300s the last time we tested these shells as well. So it seems like they might just run a little quicker than box advertised. And 1388 is getting up there and starting to move on out for a lead 5. So that's obviously more than enough for a turkey shell. But how did they pattern down at 40? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and we definitely see some pretty interesting results. Right off the bat, we did pattern a touch off to the left. We do have a little bit of right to left crosswind out here today. I tried to time it up where it was the least amount of wind I could, but it could have potentially drifted it a little bit off, or it could just be that particular shell or choke combo just favoring a little bit to the left. But do we still have a dead turkey? Yes, we definitely do. There's 2 up through the brain and several more down the spine that would have done the job still. But obviously, if we shifted our pattern over to the right just a little bit, we would absolutely have a dead bird at 40 yards any day of the week. Moving over and looking at our core area, which is just to the left of the actual turkey paper there, it's a beautifully even spread of pellets. There's really no voids or anything in there at all, at least nothing major. A turkey is never going to make it through that kind of a pattern at 40 yards, so really nice and even spread. Now moving to the edges, we do have a little bit more of an open pattern, and it does string some pellets around the edges and stuff, so it's not perfect all the way out to the outside of the pattern, but still, that's a perfectly solid enough turkey pattern for what the shell is and for the choke we ran it through. Giving you guys a whole picture of it here so you can see the whole thing again. It's definitely more broad and open than something like a Longbeard XR shell would be, or whatever the case is, but that's about what we expected, I would say. I didn't expect TSS type of performance out of it. I didn't expect Longbeard XR type of performance out of it, but for a very cheap sub $10 a box basic import load, that would simply do the job. Is it the best turkey pattern we've seen? No. Is it the tightest? No. It doesn't have the hottest core, but if you're a basic 40 yard and in type of turkey hunter, I don't think you can really complain too much about that, all things considered. It's a cheap shell, it's a cheap choke, and it gave a nice even spread of pellets until you get all the way to the very outskirt edges of the pattern. So ultimately, that is probably a little bit better than what I was expecting to see out of this combo. I thought we would have a plenty good enough 40 yard turkey pattern, but it's probably a little more condensed and a little more even than I figured we were going to see coming into it. So is 660 just about perfect for these shells? Potentially so. Maybe we ought to try them through a 655 or something, a little tighter, and we'll see if we condense those edges down just a little bit farther. I think it's a possibility anyway, but we may also run into a case of starting to over constrict them as well. Either way, I'll take that for what it is. I wouldn't be scared to turkey hunt with that out to 40 yards if that's the shell I could use or I could find. So really, not bad overall. And I definitely think it's worth trying a few more chokes with them as well, because I still think there might be a touch more potential in these shells with the exact right combination. So at the end of the day, I'm liking what I'm seeing here. I don't think you can really argue too much with that, all things considered. And here's the wad from that shell. Very basic field style wad stuff. Nothing fancy going on. Nothing stuck down in there. And it's not even really torn up or damaged at all either. Those tight wads can be hit or miss whether they tear a wad up sometimes or not. But this one looks pretty good. So no concerns here from me. I would say it did its job just fine. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? I think we pretty well covered it. It's a solid performance. It's not the best turkey pattern we've seen. It's not the tightest performing turkey load either, but it's gonna do the job perfectly fine out to 40 yards. And if we had that pattern centered up a little bit, you could absolutely push that a little bit farther if for whatever reason you needed to, or you misjudged your range or anything like that. It's not like 40 yards is pretty well the cutoff limit. You've got a little wiggle room in that pattern. And if you're hunting in right tight and close, you're also going to have a little more breathing room to work with as well. So for a lot of people, that may be about what they're looking for. It's a cheap shell, it's a cheap choke, and it's easily 40 yard capable, but it allows a little more breathing room while holding a nice even spread. For what it is, for what the shell is, what the choke is, and the prices, I don't think there's much to complain about there. The biggest issue I see might be one little void right here in the bottom corner of the turkey paper, but it's no bigger than the size of your fist, and still a turkey's not going to walk through that when the rest of your spread looks like that. So overall, that's perfectly fine with me. If I was on a budget, or if I could only get those shells or that choke combo, I would be just fine out to 40 yards with it. So for a cheap import shell, that's probably one of the better ones we've tested so far, that's for sure. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Rio turkey loads, and if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is that a pattern or a combo you would ever turkey hunt with? Or is it still a little too broad for you? Would you prefer it to be a little tighter? Or is that about perfect for what you're looking for? And what other choke combos do you want to see us run those Rio shells through? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.